Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome back to Record Breakers, your music podcast of the millennium. I don't know. I'm PETEY, RAVE, your man with no plan. Here with me, of course, is my crew, my team, my squad. We've got Brett.
Too sweet.
Yeah. We've got Drew.
Degeneration X.
Yes, and we've got Patrick.
Can we just be over the Bullet Club and just like celebrate like the members of it that are good? Because like the idea of the Bullet Club's kind of played out.
What's the hand symbol for that?
Too sweet.
Yeah, same one, because it's everything is self-referential wrestling. But yes, let's not worry about the Bullet Club. Let's talk about the Music Club. Where's the music?
Seguye.
We're talking about music, of course, as we do every week. We share music with each other, take turns. The person whose turn it is to share music this week is Drew. Drew, what do you got for us this week?
Got a record that came out pretty damn recently from the Epitaph Records. That record label of some note you may or may not know. It's a band from a lovely, lovely Scranton, Pennsylvania. Something to come out of Scranton besides paper. It's a punk rock band by the name of the Menzingers. The album was After the Party. It's a album I found right as it came out and was sort of excited to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. This came out on February 3rd. So right
2017. Let's date the record by...
Yes. Just a couple weeks ago, just a few weeks ago. So it's hot off the griddle. It's hot gates.
Hot gates.
Yes, hot gates. Let's talk.
We get that joke, PETEY.
Yes.
We get that joke.
Or hot cakes with sausage. Let's talk about some expectations. Brett, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Dude, I had no clue what the hell this was. I couldn't even spell it. I got a message of we're listening to this, and I didn't even know if the name of the album or the name of the band was the thing that I needed to search. I was so unfamiliar, but I do know Drew, and he also said something about Pennsylvania. I've been there once. I lived there. I've seen it. But otherwise, I haven't been following the records coming out of Epitaph in a while.
Yeah. Patrick, what were your expectations?
I was like, oh, like when I was researching this record, I was like, oh, they're on Epitaph. I didn't even notice. But that makes a whole hell of a lot of sense.
Yeah, Patrick, what were your expectations coming into this album?
So I had no idea anything about them, despite the fact that I literally went to college 20 minutes away from where they were formed and played for several years. Scranton, Pennsylvania is a place I am intimately familiar with. I've spent a considerable amount of time there. I went to school in neighboring Wilkes-Barre. Fuck that town and fuck everything that ever came out of it. I found out, according to Wikipedia, they are tangentially related to Tiger's Jaw, who are all right, I guess, for a band I wasn't aware of until long after I lived there. But yeah, it's a band Drew picked, and it's not a ska band.
Although they're tangentially related to a ska band.
Yeah. But yeah, Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
Well, the best way, I think, to describe the Menzingers in general is how I found them. So, as many know, because I've talked about it on this show before, I used to work with a couple audio engineers as they were doing a small little studio and recording like local alt-rock bands and local punk bands and ska bands and metal bands and stuff like that. And doing all that bit. And I met this guy named Steven. While we were recording a band called Dakota Spells Disaster. And me and him sort of started talking about the bands that we both liked. Your Jawbreakers and your No Use for Our Names and all that sort of jazz. And he still to this day in his new bands that he is with will bring me their first mixdowns to sort of listen to every once in a while to get my opinions on them. he was the one that would talk at length about the Menzingers. So I was like, okay, I gotta dig these guys up. And I was happy that I did. They're a band that is at times just simple, like straight up rock and roll, but it's got that punk sort of sneering bravado to the entire thing. Different vocalists depending on which song you get. Greg Barnett or Tom May. Their delivery is gruff, but it isn't muddled. It isn't hard to understand. It doesn't have that like weird, like angry yelling in your face, finger pointing that some punk rock of this type can sometimes get. Against Me gets there at some points. Anti-Flag has gotten there at some points. This is much more laid back than any of those. They're a band from the Midwest. If that gives you any idea of the type of
Scranton is not the Midwest. God damn it.
Pennsylvania's count.
Pennsylvania is not the Midwest until you get to Altoona. Then that's the Midwest.
Tuna. Sorry.
Home of the Curve. Oh, yeah.
I have actually been to the Curve, which the baseball team is named for. It's a train thing.
But it's that sort of vocal delivery. The songs themselves have a lot of fist pumpy sort of pop punk rock stuff to them. Songs about wanting to get out of where you live and go like do something better and be something more than yourself, but it's coming from a group of guys that are hitting 30. And maybe they realize like that's not all it's cracked up to be either. And that sound sort of is exemplified in that it's got that punk rock, it's got OOs, it's got palm mutes, it's got that whole bit. And it's something that I'm a simple man sometimes. We might have talked about Steely Dan and how great the intricacies of Steely Dan are. But sometimes driving out of work, I just want to go to a song sometimes. And the Menzingers are pretty good for making me do that on the drive home.
Yeah. And it even says there on the Wikipedia on their compositions, it's like they intended to create a fun album where, according to Barnett, you throw it on a jukebox in a bar and be fucking punk the whole night. I think that's a good way to kind of put it.
The guy from Bad Religion, Brett Gurwitz, described that these guys play the kind of pure punk rock that I kind of grew up with. They're talented songwriters, and I'm happy to have signed them, which is one, he likes to make money because he's a record label owner, but also, yeah, it's that old sort of sneery, just punk rock that you put on, you do some work, you sneer, you pump your fist, and you're happy to be punk rock sometimes.
Yeah. But it's fun. Brett, what would be the themes elements that caught your attention? How would you describe this album musically?
Well, musically, Webster's Dictionary defines musically as this band is carrying sort of the torch of a style of music that I haven't really heard of for a while. That doesn't mean it hasn't been there. It just means it hasn't been in front of my face. It's kind of an introspective album at times, dealing with topics of growing up and being a grown man playing the young man's music. At times it sounds fairly indistinguishable from pop rock sometimes, and at other times it's a little grittier, and sometimes it's like it's a fresh sound that I did not expect to hear. It's a tightly assembled, there are parts of this album that I have heard before in other places. The stuff that I have heard before was put together in a way that was tight enough and had a twist on it enough to keep me from scoffing it off as being a recycled like trick of making music. But there were some things there are a few things that I'll pick out when we go into individual songs, but there are things there were some grooves and some progressions and some ways that they did things that have been done before by bigger names, but the way that they, the music is it recycles itself anyway. So especially in punk rock, you only got 4 chords like to choose from anyway. So like it's they did a really good job of spicing up some things that really like it was like, hey, that's a neat turn of a lick, or they changed things up while I was listening to it in a manner that impressed me to the point that I can look past the fact that it's sort of a very simple but effective production.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, how would you describe this album music? What would be the themes elements that caught your attention?
So I'm going to speak about this sort of in terms of when the band existed and my my relationship with punk and pop punk and rock music at this time. So this band started in 2006. Obviously, this album's newer than that, but very much sounds like late 2000s pop punk. And by that point in my music life, I had forsaken punk music at the time to go for metal. So basically because I was not into where the genre was going. So this is, but now coming into it as an adult and less of an asshole than I was when I was, 20 years old. This is one of those things where maybe it's not for me, but like listening to it for this show, a lot of what we do is try to figure out what we actually think of it, maybe less emotionally and more just in terms of what's going on. It totally sounds like late 2000s pop punk, and if you like that genre, you're probably going to like this. But it also still has all the tropes of that genre 10 years on, and while, like Brett said, they are reflecting sort of on being in that unique position of being, older and wiser and still kind of playing music for 20-year-olds. It didn't do it for me, I guess. That's the way I would describe it.
Spoilers.
Jesus. Yeah. Spoilers for me personally.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw me, Drew. I raised my hand too. Tend to have those. You and me, Drew. We tend to have those moments together. But yeah, Drew. What would be some of the key tracks for you?
Really excited to go see Jimmy Eat World. If we want to talk about my early to mid 2000s. I'm fucking still a dork about that shit. Telling Lies. We're gonna open with the opener. Because I think this is a pretty fun song. It opens pretty kicking for that. It's a chanty punk song. Remember that time I mentioned that there was a lot of palm mutes and OOs? Guess what the album starts out with? Palm mutes and OOs. It's a hooky chorus that sort of speaks to a lot of folks, I think. It's that, like, just being lost in a situation, but you're still okay with it, and you're still finding the good in the situation, even if, like, you're unsure about it. Midwestern States. A song about going to a drive to get elsewhere, to get away from, let's say, Scranton, telling a story. And getting that, I can definitely understand something like that. It's a pop punk trope, if we want to talk about pop punk tropes. Like the, hey, I'm going to move out to a coast, or hey, I'm going to move to somewhere else and get something better for myself sort of deal. Bad Catholics.
I dated a few of them.
Hey, it's weird. The song talks about a few of them. And the weird thing was, this song was considered. They were considering, when they were writing it, to put it on a split record instead of putting it on this record, but ended up falling really in love with it. So they decided, instead of doing another split with somebody else and using the song as one of them, just to do it themselves. It's a song that I think a lot of people, especially, again, a lot of people, it's a song that a lot of people like myself can relate to. And then the title track, just if I can get one more in here, After the Party. It's sort of that, like, it's a punk rock anthem for people who are starting to grow out of punk rock, which is sort of like, as Brett put it, a metaphor for the entirety of this album. It's like, I still like punk rock and I still play punk rock, but like, I think I'm too old for punk rock, but I'm going to keep doing that because it's the thing that I do and I enjoy it. And it's that mid to late 20s, early 30s, like, I still like this stuff, and I understand that it's supposed to be for kids, but fuck it. Like, we can still be happy with what we got and be okay with that and dance alone and just have a good time with stupid shit. And I think that's kind of awesome for being the title. The title track has to speak to what the record is if you're going to put a title track on it, and I think After the Party does that pretty well.
Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
I'll repeat some of the same sentiments. Midwestern states. As somebody who is, I've made my career in the Midwest. I can't necessarily relate to the content, but it is definitely a song that is worth mentioning. Telling lies or telling lies. Sorry. The song.
Get hip and get with it.
Yeah.
Song
Exactly.
about being in your 30s. Get hip and get with a song about being in your 30s.
Correct. And that's a solid opening track. I can't complain about that at all. And Charlie's Army. It's a slice of 90s straight up rock with like a small dash of the Cars almost. The whole walking bass lines under staccato snare, like I don't have a visual aid prepared for you, but after hearing that, I was like, okay, there's a part of this song that reminded me of something. It took me a long time to figure it out, and I was like, oh well, I'm switching the bass playing around to a guitar playing around underneath the staccato as in No Doubt's Sunday Morning. So I put it to the test. And I don't have a side-by-side comparison, but I fucked around on a bass guitar for a little while, which I am not equipped to do at all. I am not the resident bassist. And so I didn't know what I was doing.
Tablature, please?
That's so bassist.
Yeah, it's like such a bassist bitch. But no, I enjoyed it was a song that touched me enough that it moved me to pick up a bass guitar, and that's saying something. So at least it moved my spirit. But there are other solid songs, but those were the ones that I kept touching back on in my playthroughs.
Show me on the doll where it touched you.
It's like it's all around. It touched me everywhere.
Yeah.
I draw a picture. It's like Donnie Darko, the things coming out of my chest. Like,
oh fuck, that's a reference.
There we go. Yeah, Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Opening track, Telling Lies. I actually kind of really like the start of this record, as cheesy and over the top as it was. I was kind of like, nah, I'm okay with this. This is fun. I don't hate the song, but it very much sounds like its era. And I don't know if this is a problem or not, but once I heard it, I couldn't get over it. The vocals sound exactly like the Killers, and I can't unhear it. It's like one notch removed from the Killers, and that could go either way. Some people love the Killers, some people don't. I'm kind of on them. They have some okay songs, but I'm not emotionally
way to take a strong position on the Killers.
Yes, I have the most weak sauce opinion on the Killers.
You heard it here first. The Killers. You either
They're
love them
right.
or hate them, or you think they're okay.
Yeah, and I guess that probably description kind of is how I feel about this record. I'm a little ambivalent. I don't hate it. I don't think it's bad. I just don't love it, I guess, or like it even. It's kind of all right. And Bad Catholics, because as Brett said, I dated a few, and this is one of those songs that might have meant something to me at a younger time in my life when that was something that was part of it, because I was raised Catholic and I'm not anymore. I'll leave it at that. But it touched on topics that were familiar to me, and like I said, probably would have meant something to me, a decade plus ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you have to say, Petey? Tell this is this and this is that.
This is this, that, and that, the other thing. Yeah. I think I think a lot of the same things. I don't know. I'm never. I always say that I'm not very good at like describing. Oh, this, that, the other thing. This, that. This is this thing. This is that thing. But I think if I were to pick out tracks, it was going to be a lot of the same things. It's going to be the opening track, "Telling Lies," and the what's it going to be like now that their 20s are over. It's like that sentiment. And Bad Catholics is the single for a reason. Yeah, there's some really cool tracks in here. We kind of
weird ass video.
And Petey, what is your opinion on the Killers?
Not a fan.
Okay,
I'm on the hate them. I'm on the hate side of things. I will say.
All right, so we've cleared that up. Nobody will ever know me or Drew's opinion.
No.
Ever.
But yeah, let's bring it back around the horn to talk about some conclusive thoughts on this record. Brett, what would be your conclusive thoughts on this album?
Man, this was kind of a forgettable album. It didn't really set my world on fire. It didn't upset me enough for me to remember it forever, or have it be brought back up multiple times in different settings today. But it's a solid album. I understand why they're doing it, and I see that it has a value. This is not a waste of someone's time to go put all that effort to cut a record. It's just not my thing. I've already had that. I've outgrown this subculture, and like I got that done in a hurry. It's kind of nice that these guys are pumping out work and doing what they love, and I don't want to take that away from anyone. But it weren't no Steely Dan, but I wasn't expecting that. But it was kind of eh. It's I.
Yeah.
The Menzingers, you either love them or hate them, or think they're alright.
Sorry.
We got box quotes tonight, guys.
Patrick, your conclusive thoughts on the album?
I think Drew or Brett's description is pretty okay, pretty on par with how I feel. I don't think it's bad. I don't even think it's poorly written or anything. I don't think there's anything I can say negative about the quality of the music other than it just didn't do it for me. Go listen to it and see if it does anything for you. This is one of those things where if I were a few years younger and this band had come out when I was 16 or 17, when I was really into this genre, I probably would have really liked them. Like they're good at what they do. It's one of those time, place, didn't catch me at the right time, and also doesn't fit into the specific part of that genre that I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more. I'm actually probably going to be quite a bit more positive on this, because I think this is, like I said, me and Drew kind of especially on this genre probably are the two that kind of link on the music big time. So I really enjoyed kind of just feeling this album, and this was just a good album to just kind of have on and feel the good vibes on. It's just a good punk rock record. It's good. Good pop punk record, good fun punk sound, feel good vibes. Like it just makes you feel good. I think it's really well done. I definitely enjoyed kind of my time with it. Yeah, Drew, what would be your conclusive thoughts on this album?
This is a band, like I said when I opened, I found it because some dude in a punk band told me, hey, this is a good record. Or this is a good band, you should check them out. And when they fell back into my lap, a year or two after he told me to do that thing, and I did that thing, I was very happy with what I heard. They have great stuff. Their split with the Bouncing Souls is really good. Like, they have other good stuff out there, but I figured if After the Party was so close to being out when it was my turn to pick a record, and I did a new record the last time anyways, might as well keep that streak going. It's something that if you like the like sort of simple, easier going side of punk rock, you're not always into like the screaming in your face yelling of punk rock. This is sort of a band that I think deserves at least a listen, at least a shot. Because I think they do what they do well. It might not be for everybody, and it might be forgettable for you, but they're a band that I think if you enjoy this style, if you enjoy if your idea of a good concert is all you need to do is stand there with a fist in the air singing along, then I think this is a band that you could at least listen to and give a shot, because they do that level of pop punk, punk rock, like skate punk, whatever you want to call it. They do that very, very well. And it shows that they care about what they're doing, that they take the time to do it as well as they do.
Mm-hmm. That is for sure. Yeah, Menzingers. Those are our thoughts. Now we transition over to our main event of the evening. Well, we've all been waiting for the important thing that happens on this podcast. Our haiku reviews. This is our fun bit that we get to do at the end. That we all get to kind of enjoy spending time on. Yeah, haiku reviews. So let's start with Brett. Brett, what is your haiku?
Straightforward album. Getting Older Gracefully. It's pretty all right.
I'll interject myself here at second place. Feel good punk music, a dose of storytelling, and some great fun vibes. Patrick, what is your haiku?
A poppy punk band from my college stomping grounds. Not really my thing.
All right. And Drew, what is your haiku?
New band for me. A brand new album for them. Already loving it.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you can find this album on our Spotify playlist. Record Breakers, a home game, is precisely its name. Listen along at home. Do your homework for each episode of Record Breakers. On that Spotify playlist will also be next week's record. And theoretically, it'll be my record. It'll be my turn to pick out something. It is, and what we're going to be talking about is very interesting. I'm going to bring something from my current and hometown, the only town I've ever lived in. It's a Miami band. It's a Grammy-nominated 9-piece group of road warriors hailing from Miami, Florida, known as Spam All-Stars, and it's going to be the album Transoceanic. It's going to be very cool, very interesting thing to talk about. Some cool music from Miami, Florida. And it's going to be very interesting. Yeah. We are going to get Cuban in there. It's going to be interesting.
Roll worldwide next week, guys.
I'll give you guys the list of genres they give the band. It's a 9-piece hip hop, Latin, funk, and electronica band. So slash
okay.
9-piece band. So look forward to that, to the discussion. It's gonna be fun. Yeah, that's then. This is now. And you can, of course, find us all over the internet. Patrick is at the Swagger. Brett is at HeyBDBibbard, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at XJuciferX. I'm at PETEY RAVE. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Once again, I forgot it last week, but once again, shout out. I'm going to keep doing it over and over again. Shout out to Reverend Punk thank you very much once again for the visuals Reverend Punk. Love you. But yeah. Look for us all over iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you can find podcasts. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.
More time. Dale.
Dale que tú puedes.
Estoy pooping.